give you guys a quick heads up. We've got a speaker here. This guy back behind us, his name's Jon McGraw. Jon is a really super awesome guy. You might have heard of him before. He played in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs, the New York Jets. Is that right?
Yeah.
And he was, were you all-conference or all-American? At K-State.
K-State all-conference.
All-conference defensive, Free State, if you guys remember him. But most importantly, in his recent life, he's been talking to companies and NFL teams about mindset, mindfulness, stress, and how to operate at your absolute peak performance. Is that right?
That's right.
All right, so I'll pass it to Jon, but I want to give him a great big Southwind welcome because we're really happy that he's here. So thanks, Jon.
Nice. Thank you, Josh. Good to see everyone. I'm excited to share a few thoughts around mindset. We're going to bring in some psychology, some neuroscience. Before I get to that, I just enjoyed seeing this collaborative workplace you all have created here and seeing the back and forth. It's not like that at every company. It was really cool to watch that. I got on your website earlier today, and what I saw was a company that's very people-focused, very committed to developing people. Another word that stood out to me was process. And so today we're going to spend some time talking about process and its implications with performance and the way it impacts mindset and the way mindset can impact our process. I do want this to be collaborative. I've got some time built in at the end for some Q&A, but if something comes up, raise your hand, shout out, interrupt me. Don't think that this just needs to be a monologue. I'm looking forward to the conversation with you. I'm going to share a little bit more about my story. Josh gave you a little bit in just a few minutes. I want to go ahead and jump right into what is mindset. When I say the word mindset, what do I mean? Because that can mean a lot of different things. And so I want to introduce you to this orange-reddish structure in your brain. It's called the limbic region of your brain. It's doing all kinds of automatic things to help you stay safe, be productive, and do things that are aligned with your values and priorities. A whole lot of unconscious things. Most people aren't aware that they have this part of their brain because they think they are this part of their brain. And whatever this part of their brain serves up for them becomes their reality. They just take it as this is truth. The problem is that this part of our brain is very limited. It's very powerful, but it's very limited. And a great way to get to introduce to your automatic brain is to do this. And we're going to do this together. For the next 10 seconds, I want you to tell your brain to stop thinking. No thoughts. Don't think about not thinking. Clean slate for the next 10 seconds. And I want you to notice what happens. Ready? Begin. And stop. All right, any success? Anyone? No thoughts for 10 seconds? Couple? Okay. For most of you, the thinking probably accelerated. Like, what the hell are we doing? This is weird, right? Stop thinking, stop thinking, stop thinking. So your brain didn't do what you commanded it to do. That's really important to understand. I'm going to say that again. You gave your brain a command that it didn't follow, except for a couple of you. Right? And this is happening all the time. Think about when you're trying to pay attention to something and your brain keeps hijacking your attention to think about that other thing that's not quite as important, right? And you keep telling like, God, no, we got to pay attention, we got to focus, and it just keeps distracting you, right? That's your automatic brain at work. At the same time, it's bringing up really great ideas, really great thoughts. It's saying, hey, don't forget to call this person, right? Don't forget, we got to do this. So it's helping you, and it's hurting you. And so the goal of mindset training is to first become aware of this part of our brain, understand its strengths and weaknesses, and then begin to retrain it. And that's what's beautiful about mindset training. It's what's beautiful about what we've discovered in psychology and neuroscience over the last 20 years is that we can retrain this part of our brain to work better for us. Right? And we're all training it all the time. We're just not often training it consciously. We're not training it intentionally. And so think about if you have dogs or pets, right, or maybe even kids. Right, oftentimes they're going to do what we've trained them to do. And oftentimes we're training them without realizing it, and then we get pissed when they pee on the rug, right? Or they fight with their siblings. Ultimately, they're doing what we've trained them to do. So this is a training process that's really important. And I'm going to teach you one of the most important skills to understand for yourselves and for anyone that you're leading when it comes to elevating performance at work and at home. So these automatic thoughts, automatic emotions that you all just experienced, they come to our conscious awareness, and what's important about this, they come to our conscious awareness already laced with emotion or meaning. Right? You think you're deciding that this moment is difficult, or this moment is really good, or this moment's really bad. You're not. Your automatic brain's doing that for you. And then you're just taking it and running with it. Right? So awareness comes in and it challenges this. It challenges what our automatic brain is serving up, just like you would if someone came in and gave you their opinion about politics or religion or anything else. You would take it with a grain of salt, and you would take it through some type of filtration process to say, is this true? And we have to be able to do this with our own automatic brain. And that's where mindset training comes in, right here. This response plan, because we can't stop the automatic thoughts and automatic emotions for the most part. There's definitely skills we can learn to slow it down, to manage it, but ultimately it's going to do what it was designed to do, and we have to have response plans in place to maximize its performance. And so I'm going to teach you one of those today. Before we get there, I want to do a quick life experience test with you. This is very simple for you to think about. Your typical workday, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed at night, what percentage of that typical workday would you say is stressful and annoying? This is just for you to reflect on yourself. The second one is monotony, so it's not quite as bad as I'm stressed out and annoyed, but life is kind of a means to an end. I'm just trying to get through this to get to something more important. Right? Could just be the end of the workday. The third, escape and shut down. These are ways I get some relief from the stress and the annoyance and the monotony. Fourth category here, I feel really good, I feel engaged, I feel purposeful in the work that I'm doing without the escape activities. So all four of these add up to 100%. Typical workday from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed at night. What does this typical workday look like for you? And I want you to think about the average American worker. 80% of a typical workday, close to it, feels like a stressful means to an end that they want to escape from. Now this might be, you all might be exceptions in here, but most peak performers, people who are trying to push the limits, oftentimes they're experiencing life a lot like this. Now some of this is appropriate. Some of this stress and monotony is just a part of trying to be great. It's a part of trying to do something really hard, like you all are trying to do, right? At the same time, it doesn't have to look like this. And there's some really simple things we can do to get some relief, to begin to shift this pie chart. And this is where my story comes in. Small town Kansas kid, I had two dreams. One, play football at Kansas State for Coach Bill Snyder. And the second, play in the NFL. And I got to do both of those. I walked on at K-State. I walked on as a wide receiver. They moved me to safety. Became an all-conference player, second-round draft pick to the Jets. 3 years with the Jets, 2 with the Lions in Detroit. My last 5 seasons back here in Kansas City with the Chiefs. I was born a decade too soon. I missed Mahomes. Unfortunately, it's the only way it could have made it a better script. But think about that. Small-town Kansas kid playing for his favorite college team, gets to come back, finish up his career for his favorite NFL team. It's hard to write a script much better than that. The problem is that most of that experience felt like this. In fact, it was worse than this. It was more like 95-5. Right? And what I didn't realize was that most of this life experience is not because of what's actually happening. It's how our mind has been programmed to experience what's actually happening. And it's how two people can go through the exact same challenge, and one rises to the occasion and the other one crumbles and falls, all based on how their mind is interpreting that experience and the mental skills, the tools they have to respond to that mind's automatic reaction. So this is why mindset's so important, mental skills training is so important. Think about how important is mindset for the success of your teams. 100%. It's huge, right? Absolutely huge. And we address aspects of it. It tends to be more tactical, more practical, right? What are the daily things I have to do to be good at my job? We don't oftentimes talk about the response plans we need to have in place on a daily basis, but especially when it gets hard. Especially when it gets hard. And so I'm going to teach you one of those today. So I want to start here with an argument, or not an argument, but a conversation around process over results. And I want to make arguments why results are more important than the process, and why process is more important than results. So someone tell me why results are more important than process.
Because at the end of the day, it's the result that matters.
That's it. Right? That's what we measure. That's how we get paid. Right? Get the job done. Make sense? Okay, now someone tell me why process, how can you argue that process is more important than the actual results?
In order to get the results we need to have a sound process.
Exactly. You can't get great results without a great process. Absolutely. So we can go back and forth on this all day. I want to explain this using a mental construct to explain this, and then we're going to get out of the theory and get into some practicality. Here's what this looks like in theory. And it's an extremely sophisticated mental construct I call A to B. It's a joke. I'm an old football player. You guys can keep up with me here. A represents my current life situation. My current health, my current relationships, current financial situation, right, my professional status. And B is the way I want all of that to look. Now, if you're like most people, A feels a lot like this, right? There's a lot of stress, monotony, and escape. So it makes sense that in our minds, B looks really bright and shiny and pretty awesome. When I walked on at K-State, my B was earning that scholarship. Right? When I went to the walk-on line at training table with the rest of the student body, and we were getting our mac and cheese or whatever, and then the training table line was over there with all the scholarship players, and they were getting ribeye steaks. I wanted to be in that line. Right? At the end of my second season at K-State, I did everything Coach Snyder asked me to. I got into a 2D position. I was playing on special teams. I earned that scholarship, and it felt amazing. An amazing experience when I earned that scholarship. Until my B moved. All right? And what was my new B became my old A, and life kind of went back to the way it felt before. I thought, hey, I can play this game. All right? I can keep this going. So my next B became, I want to be a starter. My junior year, I became the starting free safety. Felt amazing again. Until my B moved again, right? And you kind of see where this is going. And what's really important to understand about this game here, or the problem with this, is not B. B's are really good. Having a direction, having goals, having aspirations, wanting to improve, that's all really, really good. The problem with this comes back oftentimes to A, and how I'm experiencing my current situation. So when we look at ambition, we look at going from A to B, right? Whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, right? All the different areas of our lives that we want to see some improvement in, oftentimes our relationship to B can be somewhat dysfunctional, right? Because I need to get to B to feel better. I need to get to B to enjoy life. I need to get to B to be enough. I need to get to B to have some peace. I need to get to B, right? And pretty soon life becomes all about this B. And here's what it looks like over the course of someone's life. And this is someone who's gone down the path of a high-achieving, right, high-performing path where they want to get better, they want to keep improving. But most of that life, though, there's a lot of gray in that. And part of that is the way that our mind's already been programmed, but also that gets exacerbated by this game, right? Where we're constantly chasing the next thing. And so what happens, what happens is I end up using one of two motivators in life. First, dissatisfaction. Why dissatisfaction? Because A is not good enough, B is where it's at. Or fear. What if I can't get to B? Right? What if I can't earn that scholarship? What if I can't get that NFL contract? And so pretty soon, those become my primary motivators. Now, I would argue a little bit of fear, a little bit of dissatisfaction is a good thing. But it shouldn't make up the majority of our life experience, and it shouldn't be the only way we can motivate ourselves to get out of bed and to get to the next thing. Right? Because then we can get stuck in this pattern of not elevating performance to the highest level. We're also burning ourselves out oftentimes. Right? And there's some really simple techniques we can learn to not only perform higher levels over the long haul, but also enjoy a lot more of that process. So I've got a quick video here of Aaron Rodgers I want to play, and it kind of frames in with this A to B approach. And then I've got a couple of videos from our neuroscientists, because I want you to understand what's happening from a neurochemical level, because it's really important to get that picture as you begin to practice the ways to change your own chemistry.
February 6, 2011. Aaron Rodgers led the Green Bay Packers to a victory in Super Bowl 45. The game changed his life, but not for the reasons you might think. He had ascended the mountaintop of his sport, silencing the doubters whose skepticism he had long used as motivation. But when he reflected on everything he had accomplished, He was surprised to realize he was still searching for something else. He sat on the bus, surrounded by his teammates as they passed around the Lombardi Trophy, and thought to himself, I hope I don't just do this.
So already experiencing the emptiness that comes right after this really big achievement. Now this doesn't make any sense, right? It would make sense that you hit the pinnacle of your sport, right? You do the thing that you've dreamt of your whole life. You're going to enjoy that for the rest of your life. That's what we would all think, right? But it's simply not the way the brain works. And so we have to begin to work with the brain a little bit more to create the chemistry that we want in the brain and in the body, right? To not only perform at higher levels, but enjoy a lot of that process as we go. So I'm going to highlight this whole process is rooted in Dr. Carol Dweck's work, Growth versus Fixed Mindset. It's a fantastic book if you really want to dive into some of this. She is a psychologist at Stanford University. One of her colleagues, Dr. Andrew Huberman, who we're going to highlight today, is a neuroscientist. And what he's done is he's demonstrated in his lab, proven that there is a neurochemical response to these mindsets that allow us to perform at higher levels. It's not a matter of willpower, right? It's not a matter of just hitting wall after wall after wall. You can do that and you can get some results, but it comes at a high cost. Right? Or you can learn how to work with your brain and get your brain to release the right chemicals at the right time so that you have the right level of motivation when you need it. So I want you to see this because this is Dr. Huberman talking about this A to B concept, right? And why this A to B concept doesn't work. Well, it works, but why it comes at a high cost. And then what's the alternative? What's a better way to go about achieving? And we're going to talk about that right after this.
There's actually a neurochemical basis for actually making stress more tolerable and extending one's ability to be in bouts of effort. And that relates to the dopamine pathway. So the molecule dopamine is a reward. It's released in the brain when you win a game, you close a deal, you meet the love of your life, someone likes your photo, the great love of your life, you complete something. But most of our dopamine release is not from achieving goals. It's actually released when we are en route to our goals, we're in pursuit of our goals, and we think we're on the right path.
This is why a lot of people get depressed after they achieve a big goal, because they feel like, I'm supposed to feel something greater. I felt this thing for 2 minutes, and now that's it?
That's right. High achievers know to attach dopamine to the effort process.
To the pursuit, the day-to-day tasks, the growth, the lessons, the losses, like everything, right?
Well, and it can be to some wins along the way,
Yeah.
but growth mindset, which is the academic discovery and laboratory discovery of my colleague Carol Dweck at Stanford, is the hallmark of growth mindset is really two things. One is, I'm not where I want to be now, but I'm capable of getting there eventually. The other is to attach a sense of reward to the effort process itself. And if you look at true high performers, people that are consistently good at what they do, they don't peak and go through the postpartum depression and crash and come back, and their life is a cycle of ups and downs, but really people who are on that upward trajectory consistently, those people attach dopamine to the effort process. And actually one of her original studies on the discovery of growth mindset was these kids that loved doing math problems that they knew they couldn't get right. These kids are fantastic at math when there is a right answer because they feel some sense of reward from the effort process.
Yeah.
We can all learn to secrete dopamine in our brain in response to things that are in a purely subjective way.
So what he's saying here is we can subjectively, with our minds, attach dopamine or reward to the effort process. Most people are reliant upon external rewards to release that dopamine, to keep them moving forward, right? And as long as I'm getting enough external rewards, right, pats on the back, paychecks, first downs, whatever it is in your sport or your business, then I can keep moving forward. But what happens when I'm not getting those extrinsic rewards fast enough? Right? Think about someone who's just starting off on a new career, right? And they're learning that and they're not getting those rewards, they're not hitting those wins, they're not closing those deals. What happens is the brain comes in and says, we're not on the right path. We're in the wrong job, we're in the wrong relationship, and pretty soon we lose all motivation. Dopamine levels drop, norepinephrine goes through the roof, and now all I can see in my landscape are obstacles, challenges, and threats. Not because that's reality, but that's what my brain is serving up for me. And so we have to learn how to attach rewards to the effort process, not only for ourselves, but for the people that we lead. And what happens is they start to enjoy the process. right? They start to enjoy the daily work, the daily grind that it takes to get the results that we care about. So it's changing the way we think about the process. And we call this shift going from A to B to expanding A. And what happens is it looks like this. So now here's someone who has been training their mind to enjoy the process. They've been attaching rewards to the process, to the effort process, not just the rewards. And now what happens is we still have our B's, right? Still have areas in our lives we want to improve and get better. But now in this game, it's a different game. A is primary, B is secondary. In the A to B game, A is secondary, A is not good enough, B is where it's at. I've got to get to B. In expanding A, my A naturally begins to expand as I orient my mind and I start to bring passion and purpose and life and energy to the effort process, right? To wherever I'm at right now. And now life is not so much about doing something else with someone else, somewhere else. It's not about climbing the corporate ladder. It's not becoming a CEO. It's about being the best at whatever I am today. So when I'm talking to football teams, I have all the backups raise their hand and I'll ask them, hey, what's your primary purpose on this team? What's your primary goal? And it's almost always become a starter or get to the NFL. And I'll tell them, no, that's a secondary goal. And that's a good secondary goal, but your primary goal on this team, your primary purpose is to be the best backup player you can be. Because that's where you're at right now. That's what this team needs from you. They don't need you to be a starter. They need you to be the best backup player you can be. And if you get really good as a backup player, guess what? You give yourself the best chance, if the opportunity presents itself, to be a starter someday. And you can see the burden, the weight coming off of them because they have control over that, right? They can be the best backup player they can be. They can't control becoming a starter or getting the NFL. And now their focus comes back to, okay, I can expand my A. I don't have to chase B in this situation. I'm going to pause there just for a second. Yeah, any questions?
Sorry, I'm super into this.
Okay.
So just so I kind of grasp, like to me, like mindset is like attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Like so if you anyone can wake up on any given day and have like be in a good mood, right? And then their attitude is, okay, I'm going to attack the day. Or the next day, let's say you didn't get sleep, you wake up, you're tired, and your attitude automatically shifts your mindset to feel sorry for yourself. So now you're kind of in a different place. Basically what you're explaining is like, it's not all about the end goal, it's about the journey. And if you can learn to train yourself to enjoy the journey, then the greater things in life will come to you. And money, the people will follow you, you know, if you do it with the right intentions, right?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. And so what we're doing is, for most people, the effort process, the day-to-day grind is kind of down here. It's stressful and monotonous. The peaks, the B's, right? The goals, they hit those, and it's way up. There's a big delta between those two. Mindset training is closing this gap. It doesn't lower the B, it just raises the A, it raises the process. So now most of life feels pretty good. It's not perfect, but it feels pretty good. And what that does is it changes your relationship to B. Right? And your focus is primarily on being great wherever you're at. Right? You don't have to be somewhere else in order to be happy or to be at peace or to be motivated to go do something. You're just ready to get up today and go crush it. Right? Now, I'm glad you brought up sleep because there's all kinds of things that impact our brain chemistry. So getting enough sleep is critical. Nutrition, critical. Exercise, critical. Hydration, critical. Most people are dehydrated. Proper breathing. Most people aren't breathing. They're not getting enough oxygen into their brain. All kinds of things that impact our brain chemistry, but I would say number one is mindset, or you said attitude, right? Because if I don't sleep enough, I can overcome that, right, for a day or two, right? Or if I haven't been eating well for a couple of days, mindset can overcome a lot of other areas where we're not quite as good. But if you get, it's the holy grail if you can get all those optimized, right? And your brain is going to love you and it's going to work for you at extremely high levels. Any other questions or thoughts on this? That was good.
Well, so that's why, you know, you talk about going from A to B, like the fulfillment of getting to B is like you lose the, like if it's only to become a starter, then once you become a starter, you fucking lose
now what?
your motivation for everything else. So it's like, but if it's all about like what it took to get to be a starter, and if you continue on that path, then you become an all-conference player, or you go to the NFL. But a lot of people just think about, if I do, like I want to be a franchise partner, and then they get to franchise partner and everything goes out the window because they've already accomplished everything. You know, that's why it's like continuing to push forward, and that's why it could be stressful going from A to B. But if that's not your end goal, then you can continue, moving upward.
That's it. Yeah, you nailed it. Really good. And that's what Dr. Huberman's going to explain here in just a second. Any other thoughts or comments? All right, awesome. Let's listen to him explain this because you just nailed it.
The first step in learning to attach dopamine to the effort process, which is the key operation in order to succeed, is to be very careful about how much you focus on the end goal. Keeping the goal in mind is important for like a proper orientation. You have to know the ultimate destination. But if at any point we were to evaluate our progress relative to that end goal, or if we don't know what the end goal is, there's a huge gap there, and it can feel overwhelming.
And depressing, and I'm not good enough,
That's
and
right.
I should just give up. What am I doing this for?
That's right.
And those thoughts will affect us.
Positive self-talk, oftentimes, unless you do it correctly, you're badly wrong. Lying to yourself won't work. Saying I'm a winner, when
you've
you
always
haven't
lost.
or you haven't won yet.
Yeah.
And if it's really extreme, there's a name for it. It's called delusional. I've spent a lot of time with people in high-performing communities. What you find is that we can all either be back on our heels, flat-footed, or forward center of mass.
Yeah.
And when you look at people who are in these high-performance communities, they try and keep their center of mass forward, almost through what seem like trivial things, like making your bed. If we want to be very concrete, we should probably focus on actions. And I'll use fitness as an example. They want to lose weight in a healthy way. But to sustain that behavior, or even to make the behavior pleasurable and to give you energy, the key is to subjectively reward those steps. So it's not going to be, let's say I go out and I run a mile, and my goal is to run 10 miles in a few weeks. The key is, as you're in the strain of that mile, the hard part, you want to tell yourself, this is the good part. This is the part that gives me energy. And I'll be very surprised if people don't actually feel like they could continue further. So it's a journey of 1,000 miles starts with is made up of single steps. But the key is to reward the harder steps, not the easier ones and not the ones where you get the thing that you want. Find the wall and push a little bit further through that wall and reward that process. This is the neural pathway getting ground in there, like really dialed in, so that the next time I'm going to breeze right past this.
Yeah.
That's really how the process works. I should also be clear, I'm not talking about everybody being super aggro and always like,
Work. Yeah.
In fact, if you're spending too much epinephrine, if you're too much of an adrenaline junkie, you will burn out eventually. And the recovery process is especially important.
Okay, we'll touch on the recovery process here at the end, but I want to stick right now with this dopamine, attaching dopamine and reward to the effort process. And the key here is it's the most difficult part. And so as you're leading people, you need to help them identify the most difficult part of their daily task, their daily grind, the most difficult part of their month, and then help them build in those intrinsic reward systems, kind of like he's doing here, but also you as leaders can help them the same way. You can help reward them during that most difficult part of their mile, that most difficult part of their workout, the most difficult part of whatever their process, their work process is. And the key here is, and this is what I need to convince my automatic brain. I'm talking to my automatic brain when I'm doing this, right? I'm not talking to me. I'm talking to my automatic brain, and what I'm reminding it is that I'm on the right path. We are on the right path, right? And that you can only do that if your system, your process works, right? If you know that your process works, if you know it will get results, right? Or you trust the leader, or Coach Snyder, right? That when I went to the walk-on program, I knew I'd seen it. I knew the other walk-ons had earned scholarships. I knew it was possible. I knew there was a path, right? So I could trust that path, even when it was really hard. Right? Even when I was injured, I could stay on that path and remind my brain, no, this will work. We're on the right path. And so we have to do that for ourselves and do that for other people, especially when it gets hard, especially the most difficult moments. In the military, they call this embrace the suck. I don't know if you've heard this slogan before, right? But it starts to make sense because there's a lot of sucky things that happen in the military, right? And they don't have the luxury of whining and complaining about why it's not fair, why this shouldn't be happening, right? They have to execute and do their jobs. And so the way they do that is they embrace the suck. Now, embracing the suck doesn't mean it's okay, doesn't mean it's fair, doesn't mean it's just, right? We're not excusing what's happened. We're just saying this is reality, and to resist it could put lives at risk. Right? So I have to be able to embrace the most difficult of moments, both my own internal state and also what's going on. Right? I need to be able to look at the facts, say this is reality, and say, okay, now what am I going to do about it? Too often we waste so much time and energy resisting our own internal state, thinking we should feel differently than how we feel. Right? Thinking I shouldn't be stressed, right? Or I shouldn't be whatever, versus just embracing, hey, this is where I'm at right now, and that's okay. I can still go perform no matter what. This is huge for athletes. Most of the time with our professional sports teams, 80% of guys have excess performance anxiety, way too much anxiety before games, and they're all trying to get rid of it. They're trying to feel differently than how they feel. They want to feel confident when they go out. The problem is that's not how they feel, right? And it makes kind of sense because they're going out in front of millions of people against the best in the world, and there's a whole lot of money at stake, right? So there's a small percentage of guys in the NFL that can go out and be supremely confident. Everyone else is going out and fighting for their life. And if you're fighting for your life, guess what? You should be anxious. You should be nervous. And as soon as they stop resisting that and embrace the anxiety, embrace the nervousness, all of a sudden they've got a really great energy source they can go use. All right, so embrace my internal state, also embrace what is the best poker players in the world. Are they the best poker players because they always get dealt the best hands? Of course not, right? Over the long run, they get dealt the same hands everybody else gets dealt. The best poker players in the world are the best because they know how to play whatever hand they get dealt the best. And they do it consistently over and over. And they don't lose their process. They don't lose their motivation, don't lose their energy when they get a few bad hands in a row. Right? They see them as opportunities. I'm going to keep playing whatever hand I get dealt the best. 2020's dealt a lot of sucky hands to a lot of people, right? How have you embraced it? Have you responded? Have you been able to adapt, right? Professionally, personally. There's been a lot of resistance to what's happened. The next few months are not going to get better. The next few months are going to be hard for our country and for our world. And we have to increase our capacity to embrace the suck. Right? That hardest part in your mile, that's when it gets good. I'm on the path. And you have to remind your brain that, otherwise it will change your brain chemistry, it'll change your body's chemistry, and you'll go on this path, right, of losing motivation, losing energy, losing focus. The greater your capacity to embrace what is, the greater your power to impact the world around you. All right, so here's a quick exercise for you guys. So with the person next to you, I want you to tell them what the most difficult part of your job is. All right, maybe it's one or two, maybe three things. All right, so someone tell me the most difficult part of their job. Just throw it out. Inspiring people. All right, so now inspiring people is what? That's it. Bring it on. All right, let's go. This is what's going to separate us from the competition, right? This is when it gets good. This is when I grow. This is when I get better. All right, somebody else, give me something.
Prioritizing my day.
Prioritizing, yeah. Oh, organization's one of my least favorite too, right? Okay, so now prioritizing your day is what?
Best thing ever.
That's it. Embrace the suck, right? It makes no sense to resist it. It's part of my job. I got to do it. Might as well do it well. For the most part, it's a straight line. Now, the results don't mirror that. The results are way down here early on, right? We're not getting the extrinsic rewards along the process, right? But we're on this straight line, but we're down here. And then eventually the extrinsic rewards start to catch up, right? The problem is for most people, this 2, 3, 4, 5 years, however long it takes, it just sucks, right? And what we do is we miss out on a lot of life. Not because of what's actually happening, because our mind's converting into one big stressful means to an end, and it doesn't have to be that way. Now, at the same time, there's going to be parts of your day that just are going to suck, right? What you're doing is you're increasing your capacity, right, to embrace that part of your day. And what's amazing then is your day stops being about what you're doing, and it starts being about how you do it. And when you get really good at how you do something, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what you do. Martin Luther King said it like this. He said, even if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, go out and sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures, like Handel and Beethoven composed music, like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets in such a way that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, there lived a great street sweeper who did their job well. And what you're doing in those moments is you're capturing the power, right, to bring meaning and bring significance to what you do. If you wait your entire life for what you do to bring meaning and significance to you, it's never going to happen. There's always going to be something more important somewhere else. But you can say, no, today, this is the most important day, right, in my career, in my life. This expense report, this conversation, this email, I can choose to make this meaningful and significant. Not because of what I'm doing, but how I'm doing it. I get to control that. This is Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL commander. Any Jocko fans out there? Anyone heard Jocko? A few of them? Okay. So this is one of his videos on pushing the rock. This really captures this A to B versus expanding A mindset. He's going to reference a mythological character named Sisyphus. So if you haven't heard, Sisyphus was condemned to push a rock up a mountain for all eternity without ever being able to get the rock to the top of the mountain. So he never got to experience that sense of satisfaction of getting it to the top of the mountain. So he'll reference that, but this is a former Navy SEAL commander talking about this expanding A concept.
Do I ever feel like Sisyphus? Yeah. Of course I do. I've been waiting for people to start saying like, oh, you put another picture of the sweat and of a squat rack? Really? But I don't know if they understand. I've been getting on that squat rack and grinding it out for 25 years. And I'm not bored with it yet. It might seem like that's an unwinnable battle, but really to me, it's not about winning. It's the battle itself. It's the struggle. It's the daily test. That's what life's about. Not just physically, but mentally. Getting that rock to the top of the mountain, that's not what my goal is. My goal actually is pushing the rock. Because pushing the rock, that pushes me. That makes me tougher. That makes me harder, mentally and physically. It gives me much more than I give it. I want to struggle. I want to grind and claw and scratch, and I want to dig in and I want to push. And I don't want it to end. If I ever got the rock to the top of the mountain and it stayed there, I'd push it back down myself. I don't want to rest, and I don't want to coast, and I don't want to reach a point in my life where I say, that's it. I've done enough. I'm not going to give anymore. I'm not going to push anymore. No. That relentless cycle of day-to-day challenges, they aren't maddening to me. They don't frustrate me. They inspire me. Inspire me to drive and push more and to push harder. That's what that rock does to me. So I say, dig in and get to pushing.
Pushing the rock, right? That's what life's about, right? So I want you to think about those difficult moments. Think about those hard times you guys all talked about. You ready to go? I want you to think about those difficult times that are coming, those difficult moments that are coming up, and those are opportunities, right? Everyone else, the competition, they're all dreading those just like everybody else. But for you guys, it's different. You're going to embrace that. You're saying, bring it on. Because that's when you grow, that's when you get better, that's when you improve, and you can enjoy that, you can embrace that. And that worst part of your workout, that hardest part of your day, all of a sudden your brain starts releasing dopamine, and you're like, hell yeah, let's go. All right, so you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's push the rock. Thank you.